Hey guys, I wanted to share with you one of my favorite ways to use up my sourdough starter discard. This I call my Crispy Sourdough Flatbread, and it literally is just from an active sourdough starter, no other ingredients mixed in. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my stovetop onto medium heat, bring my sourdough starter over, and a big spoon to be able to get that into the pan. And here I'm using olive oil, a generous amount, into my small skillet. You could also use avocado oil, coconut oil. So I'm going to mix up my active starter. So I fed this the night before, and then I typically do this flatbread in the morning with eggs. But it's also really a great addition to any meal if you need like a bread component or that sort of thing. So I'm going to mix up my starter, and once the oil is hot, I'm going to scoop that into the center of my skillet, and I usually do like 2 scoops, and then I'll spread it out into probably like a 1/2 inch thick layer. You can do a little bit thinner if you want it crispier and to cook faster. I like kind of a mix between a crispy outer layer and then a bit of a softer inner layer. So you see here I'm just kind of spreading it out the best I can with the back of my spoon. To get it to be the thickness that I like. If you keep it too thick, what will happen is the outsides will cook really fast, and then you'll kind of still have like a really like runny inside, and it's not like the best flavor. So I'd recommend like this thickness or thinner. So at this point, once I get the the starter spread out in the skillet, I'll season it with, I typically just use salt and pepper and garlic powder. Sometimes I put some extra herbs in there, depending on what meal that I'm pairing it with. But today I'm just going to do like a runny egg and some sauteed onions with it for breakfast. So I like just the standard salt, pepper, and garlic powder. So I'll do it on this first layer that hasn't been flipped yet. And I'm just waiting till it gets like a golden brown color on that first side, and then I'm gonna flip it to the other side. You see here I kind of had a messy layout of it. I typically don't have like extra bits on the outside, but that's okay. Those are still gonna be good, and they're gonna fry up nicely and be eaten as well. So I'm just going to wait, and I'm going to keep checking it to see. I'm looking for like a deep golden brown, but you do have to be careful that you don't burn it, because I have done that before, so just watch it. So at this point, I'm going to flip it over and start cooking the other side. I don't re-season at this point. Just that initial seasoning seems to be great. The flavor of this an active sourdough starter is really delicious anyways. It's tangy, but not like too tangy. You can do this with starter that hasn't been fed for a while, but it's going to be very sour. So once I flip it over, I also turn the heat down to more of a medium low, and I add a little bit more oil and continue to cook on that underside. Now, as you notice, there is a good amount of oil in this recipe, so it is essentially like frying the starter to get like that crispy layer. But as long as you keep it medium heat or less, you're not running into like some of the health issues that accompany frying at times. And that's really like the main way to get that really crispy layer. So you want to make sure that you're adding a little bit more oil as you go. The issue is if you don't add enough oil, it's not going to cook for long enough. And again, the inside will not be cooked. So you have to add little bits of oil as you go, but overall it's not too much. So appreciate my starter. I'm going to go ahead and put it away at this point. I'd showed on my previous sourdough starter creation video that my favorite way to store it is to just have like a kitchen towel over it with a rubber band versus like an actual bowl lid. It just allows for good airflow. Okay, so I'm just going to keep flipping over the flatbread as it cooks to distribute the heat and again have it cook all the way through. So, and I'm just gonna tap it, see if it's getting crispy, and always ensure that I'm not burning the bottom side. Okay, so it's ready usually after about 10 minutes, and it's gonna be very hot at this point. So I let it cool for a couple minutes. So yeah, sometimes I cut it in strips if we're eating it with like a soup or something. Today I like quartering it and using one of the quarters to put an egg on. And then the rest I'll probably rip apart and give to my little girls or just eat, as an extra snack or whatever. It's very crispy and it's really enjoyable. The texture and the flavor are just wonderful, and it's really simple that it's literally just one ingredient. Obviously you add a little bit of the spices, but the dough itself is just your starter. So at this point, I love to take like half an onion, cut it up, and like pretty thin, saute that up. This is honestly one of my go-to breakfasts. It's so easy and it's so delicious, and you're getting a lot of good stuff in there. So I'm gonna add some grass-fed butter and fry up 1 egg. I personally like my egg to be a bit runny. I know my husband likes a jammy egg, so today this was just for me. So I make sure that, I cook it with a little bit of salt and pepper, and then once I flip it over in the pan, I take it off pretty much right away, so that I don't overcook it for my liking. And there you have it. So I'm going to add that beautifully cooked fried egg onto one of my crispy flatbread quarters with a little bit of the sauteed onion. And to top it off, I'm going to add some black sesame seeds. I've been loving these lately, putting them on everything. So they're so good. If I had some avocado, I probably would eat that with this meal. Or yeah, whatever. It's just so good. I've done this type of bread with so many different recipes. It's also super good if I've cooked up like a seasoned chickpea mash and spread it out over the flatbread and added like sprouts and other greens and citrus, and oh my gosh, it's so good. But it just it's amazing on its own, but it's also a great foundation to stack other foods on. And like I said, it has a bold, tangy flavor, but it's not overpowering when that starter is active. So yeah, I would say totally try this out as a way to use up some of your sourdough starter once you've made it. And if you're curious of how to create a sourdough starter yourself at home, I just recently posted a video, 7 days to create your own sourdough starter. It's super easy and I totally encourage you to do it. Thanks guys, enjoy and shalom.